Hi everyone, I'm David Church, and this is a commentary about returning to the rails restoring the 2926. I was the director, writer, producer, editor, and narrator of this short documentary. And I made this for a college project at Santa Fe University of Art and Design. May that school rest in peace. And so, for those who probably know me personally, you all would know that I really love trains. And when I was trying to come up with a documentary to shoot for the college class, I'm glad this came along. So a little bit of history about that. Well, I took a couple of classes during my time at Santa Fe University of Art and Design. One was called Creative Producing and Development, which was in the spring 2016 semester, and Making Dynamic Films, which was in the fall 2016 semester. For the first class, one of our assignments, was to come up with a documentary and a short fiction film project, which we would then make in Making Dynamic Films. So, when I was trying to find ideas to do the documentary, I had a very good friend reach out to me. His name's Anthony, and he's actually in the documentary as one of the interviewees. Basically, Anthony and I had met in 2011 at the Cumbers and Toltec Scenic Railroad. And there's Anthony right there. In 2016, he reached out to me and wanted to know if I'd be interested in a model train swap. So I agreed to do so, and we met at the restoration site of the 2926. After he showed me around a little, and after we swapped our trains, I decided that this would be a great topic for my documentary. After all, since I love trains, I think it would be appropriate that I would do it, no? And so, in the summer of 2016, I reached out to the organization and got in touch with the president, Dr. Michael Hartshorn. And then, after getting permission to come down and film, I spent quite a few weeks over the summer going on Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's when the operation was in progress. Those were the days when they would be restoring the engine. And so, all the times I would go there, I would shoot B-roll, and I would shoot interviews, and then also get photos from their online archives, and as well as photos from their in-person collection. And I gotta say, it really is fascinating to see just how many photos they have of this engine. As they say in the documentary, it ran over 1 million miles and it hauled passengers and freight. And all in all, even though I wasn't born yet, I still would have really have loved to have seen it in its heyday. Just watching it steam along the tracks, blowing its whistle, hauling all the trains around. And so, looking back now, I would say that with some of these photos that have more of a portrait style to them rather than landscape, I could have really put a background behind them. That way the black screens aren't just surrounding it. But I digress. So, after shooting it for pretty much most of the summer, I actually had I had enough footage to actually assemble a rough cut close to the start of the semester. And so, about a quarter of the way through or so, we actually presented the rough cuts of our documentaries. And so I presented mine, and I got feedback from not just my professor and classmates, but I also got some feedback from my then roommate at the time, Andrew. He's also a filmmaker and had graduated the semester beforehand. And thus, after getting all their feedback and commentary and comments and the like, I made all the changes accordingly, and then I turned it in for the midterm grade. And it was pretty well received for the most part. And after that, I decided to go work on my Sasquatch movie, Sasquatch Vengeance, which was the fiction project for the class. But anyway, just a little bit more about the making of the film. I got quite a bit of footage, like I got at least one walk around of the engine and some close-ups of the tender. And I got this really cool footage of one of the members doing some welding. Wish I still had that footage, but I accidentally lost the hard drive. But anyway, and it was also thanks to this film that I actually did get involved with the New Mexico Steam Locomotive and Railroad Historical Society. Basically, every year they have this open house in September where the public would come in on a Saturday and they'd get a up close look up of the engine with the tender attached. There'd be food and face painting, and I actually offered to help out too. Basically, I dressed up as Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas the Tank Engine, and I read Thomas the Tank Engine books to the kids that were there. It was a lot of fun, and like I said, it eventually led to me actually joining the organization the next month. And because of that, I actually did a couple videography gigs for them. One of them was for a new members orientation and safety meeting. And then the other was like a general meeting that happened in January 2017. I still have those documents and files somewhere around. And all in all, the documentary and both of those videography gigs were a great way for me to get involved with trains and also use my filmmaking talents, I think. And thus, all in all, it was a really good experience to make this documentary. And because of the class I took, and then a class I took during my final semester, I think I've done a lot better at making documentaries. Like I've learned more skills and learned more conventions of making a documentary. And I also wanted to thank everybody who was involved in this. From Dr. Mike here, and of course John Spargo, the safety officer, and Anthony here, John Taylor, and Nate Phillips, who was shown just a little bit ago, and also Ernie Robart, who you just saw. May he rest in peace. And also, I just think that this was one of my... I also pretty much think that with the documentary, I was able to help spread the word about the engine. After all, not to toot my own horn, the film was actually shared on the New Mexico Steam Locomotive and Railroad Historical Society's official Facebook and YouTube accounts. And for me, that is a pretty high honor. And I'm glad to help to raise awareness to the restoration cause through this film. And also, I do want to thank everybody for tuning into this documentary commentary. I'll definitely be doing some more commentaries later on. And as such, thank you all for tuning in today. Stay tuned for more commentaries and updates on my projects. And, as always, stay tuned for updates on everything else. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, evening, night, whatever time of day you're watching this. And, with that, I bid you all adieu. Thank you, and goodbye.